So is this where an intro would go in?
Yes, ma'am. It sure would. I'm
'Cause it
sharing it to
seems like
you.
we can do it all in 30 seconds.
We
Or
can, and I think I can make it a little longer too.
so like 45?
Maybe. I'd have to try it out, but eh. Oh, I can't send it that way. Whatever.
Okay.
We'll just wait till somebody comes on.
Okay.
Okay. I shared it out. Share it to him anyways. Okay. Oh, there we
I
go.
don't think that. Oh, RU Media. I got you. Never mind.
What?
Nothing. I'm going to try to share it to a group.
We got somebody watching. Hey. Sherry Maddox is watching. Hi, Sherry. I think she's new. I've never seen her name pop up before. Let us know where you're watching from.
Yes.
All right.
So you were going to do a disclaimer, right?
Yes, yes. We have to do a disclaimer for tonight because this one is a wacky one. Hi, Kyle. All right, so we are going to be talking about Jeffrey Dahmer tonight, and I do have to put a disclaimer. This guy is it's good. It could get a very descriptive, vocally descriptive with what we talk about. So if you have a weak stomach or you're having children around you, please don't have them watch like 18 and plus, please, today. Uh, this is not one that you want kids to be listening to because it's pretty graphic. The Yeah, I know you're a kid there, Kyle. uh, that's Ace's son.
Oh.
He's a cool kid. Yeah, earmuffs, Caleb, the grandbaby. I miss my grandbaby. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, go visit. But anyways, if you're 18 and under, earmuffs. It is it could get graphic. Thankfully there's no very much graphic pictures to post, so because that would probably be a little gruesome. But verbally, yes, it's gonna get gruesome. So so we're gonna talk about Jeffrey Dahmer. Yay. So do you want to start? I
Yeah.
know you love this. You love this one. She's like, I'm all prepared. I've
I
seen
didn't
read
even have to
everything.
print anything for this
I
one.
know.
So
She goes, it's all locked up in here.
So, most of us have probably seen the documentary that's on Netflix and the way that you have not seen that. Wow.
No, I
Wow.
did. Okay, so after reading this, I was like, yeah, I don't think I can handle the documentary. I was gonna watch a little bit, but I was like, no. What I
Yeah.
read is enough. What I read was enough to turn my stomach and make me want to vomit all day. So no, I was like, I don't know if I could watch that.
Well, being a serial killer advocate, I guess that I am because that's all I watch, unfortunately, is true crime stuff. But
Hi, Master.
this actually with Jeffrey Dahmer, it started out really at a young age. I mean, even at a young age, he had very peculiar hobbies and interests, and he he didn't completely and totally admit to later on about killing animals, but they do believe that he wasn't just taking roadkill off the side of the road to gut it and dissect it, because
Yeah.
his father encouraged him to do that kind of
Well,
stuff.
yeah, because his father was like a PhD in science. What do
Didn't
you
he do
say?
taxonomy?
I didn't see taxonomy, but no, he was a scientist of some sort.
Yeah, he was
And
definitely a
he was
smart one.
um yeah, his dad was a research chemist. He was a chemist. And his mom was a teletype machine instructor. So typewriter.
But his mother was not a very nurturing mother. She
Mm,
didn't even really act like she liked him. I mean, she literally pretty much abandoned him in the house that he did share with his
right.
father. She did have psychotic problems. She
She did. She was so he was abandoned by both parents because his dad was still in school going to college for to be a chemist. So he was working and then going to school. So he was really ever home to take care of his family. And then his mom was um diagnosed with depression and
bipolar, right?
it pretty much is what I mean. It didn't really say bipolar, but it said she had um, suffered from depression and and she was a hypochondriac. So anything that we know a hypochondriac, they think everything is wrong with them. Um, and she
Hi,
suffered from
Matthew.
depression and demanded constant attention um, from her spouse, which obviously he couldn't give her because he was in school and working and trying to support his family. So by not getting that attention, her depression increased and she spent more and more time in bed taking medication. Um, yeah,
Come here, Twyla.
but as that happened, it says here that at first he was an energetic child and very happy go lucky, but the more that his parents didn't pay attention to him, the less energetic he became. The less, and around 4, had a double hernia surgery. So I don't know if it says before that he was happy in that, and then after that something changed, like the light bulb went out in him after his surgery.
Hmm.
But it was when he was in elementary school, at the young age, is when his dad found animal bones underneath their porch, underneath their house, basically. And that's when he started getting excited about death, is when they found the bones,
Mm-hmm.
which is, hi, Shirley. Um, which is kind of creepy because that was at a very, very young age.
Well,
And then
not
he
only
had
that,
said,
but his dad would take him out at a young age to go get roadkill off the side of the road so they could dissect it.
yeah,
And I mean, it was like a
because he started asking questions after he found the bones, like started asking about bleaching, and his dad found that fascinating, obviously, because he's a chemist. So he showed him how to bleach bones, animal bones, to make them whiter and whatever. So as his curiosity started peaking, is when he started trying to find the roadkill. And there was one part that I did read, which was absolutely disturbing to me. When he was in high school, he liked to play pranks on people, and he took, which they said it was roadkill, but I'm not sure if it was actually roadkill. But he took a dead animal, a larger dead animal, kind of like I would say like a dog, and nailed it to a tree with its head cut off, and
yeah, I
he
do remember
kind of
that, hearing about that.
dissected it and hung it or nailed it to the tree. And yeah, that's pretty disturbing. And then he took people out and showed them, and they were disgusted by it. So it started with animals, like you know, and he would find a lot of them. He would like you said, dissect them, take their skin off, see how their skin peeled off the bones. Then he
He
would
would
bleach
put them in
bones.
acid, so the acid would just fall off. The skin would just fall off of the bone from being in the acid.
Then he would
He was
bury
doing disturbing
yeah, he
things.
would bury the like he would take the head of the animal and cut it off and keep it in the shed. Like basically, it was like a shed, I guess they had by their house, because they had some property. Um, and then he would bury like the skin and stuff in the ground, keep the bones, you know. And then he kept asking questions like about, like you said, the bleaching and acid and stuff like that. Discovered that some of it would deteriorate the bones, so kind of gross.
Very
So that's where it started.
and
But as
disturbing.
he he was known as a very intelligent child, but didn't have very good grades in school. Because in high school he started drinking. So he
Heavily.
heavily drinking, and when he was caught with alcohol in his jacket pocket, he would say that was his medicine. Like, but when other students would ask him why he was like had whatever it was, whiskey or whatever in the bottle, he'd be like, "Oh, that's my medicine." But he was just drinking, so he didn't like. Literally, I think they said his grade point average was 0.45
Wow, I didn't know
out of
that.
4.0. Is one of the things I read, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Well, that's
Like
because he
that's
was
like
strict. I
no
mean, think
effort
about it.
whatsoever.
You have to have parents that are completely checked out to not notice
Yeah, yeah.
that your teenager is drunk all the time.
Right, right. And I mean, but his mom was always laid up in bed, you know. And I mean, I get that because my father has bipolar, and I can remember him months at a time staying in bed and just laying in the dark, curled up in a blanket. And I'm like, "Are you okay, Dad?" You know. So I made sure that I never became like that. And none of us children are, you know, I mean, I can't say none of us, but
My cats are driving me insane.
oh,
I had one that was in here with me scratching out the door, so got up and let her out. Now I got the other one scratching out the door on the other side because he wants in. Come on. Mm, sorry. Mm,
That's okay. Um,
mm.
but anyways, I mean, I get the depression thing. It runs in my family. I totally understand the depression, but and it is hard when you have a parent that, you know, isn't paying attention to you, isn't talking to you because they're stuck in their own little mental world at that time, you know. I understand that, but he went to the extreme, you know, of not like abandonment. You know, thankfully I had a mom that paid attention to us. You know, I mean, I do wonder if I didn't have my mom around, how much of a different person I would have turned out to be, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, people who have parents who are depressed no understand that, but he pretty much raised himself, I guess, you know, and not in a good way. It was in high school. Um, he tried to deny his feelings towards men, so he discovered that he would fantasize about other boys. Um, and I think he started drinking even more because of that. I mean, we're talking about like the 70s, so that was taboo back then. You didn't really, I mean, that was starting to come about, you know, with but it was still a hard discussion to talk about you know, if you like the same sex. And yeah, so he didn't do good in school because he was drinking a lot because he discovered he was gay. Not good. You know?
And
Not
I wonder
good.
if he wouldn't have taken things so terribly to an extreme. I mean, it wasn't I mean, to be gay, okay, but wow, you know what I mean? Like the things that he was doing was way beyond the factor of homosexuality. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
if you were
And
trying to cover up that you were one, stuff he
yeah.
was doing was still.
Well, I had a friend who said her husband actually went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer. I was like, "Oh crap." Went to high school with him and then had another friend that she said was asked to homecoming or prom by him, and she said no, obviously, because he was weird. Um and she's like, shortly after that's when he started killing. So I don't know if he was trying to like, cover it up any by pretending like he liked girls and trying to talk to girls. I didn't read that in anything I read about him doing that. But um I did find something interesting though. When he finished high school and he went to college, he only did like a few semester like one semester um and then dropped out. He went to OSU, by the way. Probably why I don't like that school even more. Oh, sorry, you Ohio people. But he went to OSU for a semester. Then his dad did pay for the second semester, but obviously he didn't go. But then he enlisted in the U.S. military, in the Army. And I found something interesting, and I was like, no effing way. Um, so he went into the army and he became a combat medic. He went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And why I find this intriguing is because I'm a combat medic and I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. I was at the same base that this guy went to, of course, many moons later, but oh my God, I was at the same base he was at previous. I found that intriguing. I don't know why. It's crazy. Then he went to Germany, got kicked out because he drank too much. But in the army, he did assault some male soldiers. He sexually assaulted them. But they obviously they didn't talk about that and didn't prove it, but he did apparently talk about it when he was obviously and when it came all about what he had done. So hi Valerie. Val, I haven't seen you in a while, Valerie. Um, so yeah, he was in the military, in the army, got
Yeah.
booted, and he
So
went to
back.
Fort Jackson, and I was there too, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's crazy, very
So
crazy.
backing up a little bit on some of the stuff that you were talking about. So
Mhm.
when he did go to college, part of the reason why he didn't finish was because of the odd behaviors. And I do believe that he, during that time, had been found to have done things inappropriately, public masturbation, things like that. So it wasn't just that he quit, it was kind of like he couldn't go. And
That
so
was his
joining
high
the
school yearbook
military,
picture. That's
yeah,
what he looked like in high school.
not a bad looking dude,
I was
really.
gonna say he wasn't really a bad looking kid in high school, not at
No.
all. I mean, he looks like one of those kids that you would have thought, would have been, I don't know, a loner maybe, but not, I mean, he wasn't bad looking, not at all. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
but
when he got back, he felt like he needed to prove things to people from being in high school or being in college and being a failure and it not working out and him being, and his dad was just kind of in denial of all of it and um basically was one of those dads that would just bond him out, let's not talk about it kind of thing. And
yeah,
out of
his
all of his.
parents, oh, my sister's hi, Rhonda. My sister's watching. Um, anyways, so his parents did end up splitting up in 1978. So right after high school, they split up. They both left him in the house by himself. Left him there.
And
They
didn't
both
he
left the house. So
murder
again, there they abandoned him again. You
didn't he
know?
murder his first victim before he even went to the military?
Yes, he did. Now that was
That Stephen Hicks, he
yep,
was
Stephen Hicks.
a hitchhiker on his way to
Yeah.
a concert.
Yep.
And yeah. So before he
And
even went into the military, his mother had left him in the house. His father had gotten himself a new girlfriend, so he
yep.
was never home. So Jeffrey pretty much lived in the house by himself for
Mhm.
quite some time, and that's how he was able to
Yeah.
kill who he
Yeah.
admits to being a first victim.
Yep. Stephen Hicks was his first victim, and he was Jeffrey was 18 and Stephen Hicks was 19. And yeah, he was a hitchhiker, and he said, come back to my house and have a few beers. And he did that when he was ready to leave. He's like, okay, I'm ready to leave. Jeffrey didn't want him to leave because apparently the dude was topless. So he started fantasizing about touching his body and doing God knows what to it, sexually. And so when he got up and reached the door, Jeffrey took a 10-pound dumbbell and hit him over the head twice with it until he like rendered him unconscious, and then he like strangled him. And then he did bad things to him. Yep. That's when he started to like, yeah, I think I read he took pictures of him
Mhm.
and masturbated over his body.
Mhm.
Pretty gross. That's where it started. Yep.
What I find interesting is in a lot of his interviews that he has with the different, whether that's media or whatever, he never really wants to admit to having sex with them. It's more like, well, we just laid together,
Yeah.
or
Right.
well, I just masturbated over them. He doesn't
Yeah.
like to actually admit to the act of all of that.
Mm-hmm. Um.
But yeah, so Stephen Hicks was his first victim that he claims, and he had Apple time to do it in because he had no supervision. And
Mhm.
one thing, I've read a couple of books about Jeffrey Dahmer, and one thing that all psychotherapists have said, and even Jeffrey admits in interviews later, is that he had triggers. And one of his triggers was whenever they would say that they were leaving. He
Yeah.
was okay with the interaction with all of these boys and men up until the point that they wanted to actually leave.
Right. Right. And with his first victim, he actually let it sit in his basement for a few weeks before he actually did anything to the body. And he dissolved the body in a strong acid solution that dissolved the bones and pulverized the remnants with a hammer. So whatever didn't dissolve, he broke up with a hammer, and then he scattered it in the woods behind his house.
Yep.
Gross. And that's when he enrolled in college and went in the military and drank himself silly. So they booted him out of the military, and they said, well, you can go anywhere you want to go. He didn't want to go back to the house. So he went to Florida. Um, and that's when he met his next victim, was in Florida.
Well, before Florida, though, he actually lived with his grandmother for quite some time. That's when he got a hold of the
I
mannequin.
thought I thought that was
Mm.
after Florida was when he moved in with his grandma, when he moved back to Milwaukee.
Oh, I thought it was before. Okay,
No,
go on.
it was
Mm.
after he moved in with his mom or grandmama.
I thought
Um,
Florida was his apartment, and that's where he got caught.
no, no, no.
Okay.
Florida, no, Florida, I'm looking at it right.
I know. You're fine.
Florida was where he stayed for a little bit. And then it said he wound up in Florida at a first warm and sunny paradise to him. Dahmer spent every spare moment getting drunk, funded by the last wages of his army pay. Once that was gone, he moved back in with his father, who flatly refused to tolerate his drunken behavior. Hoping that change of scenery might help his situation, Dahmer's father sent him to Milwaukee to live with his grandma.
Gotcha. I knew there was a
So,
murder
yep. So I guess the dad took back over the house and said, you're not living here. Kicked him out, went there, and yeah, so
So his second
Graham,
victim is who you were talking about.
yeah, yeah. So once he moved in with grandma in Milwaukee, um, that's when things really, really came into play. Like, he started frequently going to gay bars. What was it called before
Bathhouses.
that? Bathhouses. Thank you. He was frequenting bathhouses and having sex with men, but they ended up revoking his membership because he was getting too aggressive and too hostile and too drunk with the patrons. So they revoked his thing, and that's when it started getting interesting too, is because he had those urges and didn't know what to do with those urges, but he kept having these fantasies about the men, and they just kept getting stronger and stronger. And that's when he started going to gay bars and he started picking up um, single men and asking them to come home with him, and he would pay them $50 just to take nude photos. So
Yeah.
he would take photos of them, and he actually bought a Polaroid camera at one point to have them right away. Um, and so he would take photos, and then he would spike their drinks.
He started doing
Um,
that in the bathhouses. And that's what
yeah,
ended up getting him kicked out of the bathhouses was that he was drugging them with the drugs he was prescribed from going to a psychologist to a doctor who gave him medications to try to help with his depression and his stuff. And instead of taking the drugs that he was prescribed, he was crushing it up and giving it to the men at the bathhouses as well. And they were
yeah,
passing out and convulsing and vomiting in their areas.
yeah,
And that's how he ultimately got kicked out. Then, but because of the time and the era, they just kicked him out instead of, charges being pressed or anything
right.
like that. Because, they didn't want to get
And,
closed down for inappropriate stuff like that going on.
what he did say is one of the things he did say is the reason why he um would drug them is because it basically satisfied him more if they didn't move. He didn't like it that they moved during sex. He wanted them completely still, um, and like you said, like a mannequin. And
Mhm.
at one point, he did. You said at one point in his life, he did take a mannequin home with him to do, to do things to a
Well, he
mannequin.
was doing that because he
But
didn't want to kill. He didn't want to kill
yeah,
anybody. He didn't want to keep, going into those urges. So he thought by having the mannequin that would subdue some of those urges he was having. And his grandmother was the one that found the mannequin in the closet and was totally like shocked by it and
right,
forced him to get rid of it. And then that's when he started killing again.
yeah. So
And
he
he
would
was
he
bringing drugged men home to his grandmother's house from the bars, and
Yeah,
she
at
would see
nighttime.
some of these guys.
Yeah. She and most of them she did not see though, and he would take them in the basement and drug them and then rape them and do God knows what to them. And then when they would come And then he would strangle them because he didn't want them, like you said, didn't want them to leave. So he would drug them, strangle them, and he would actually have sex with them, their dead corpse.
Yeah, necrophilia.
Like
Disgusting.
he did everything. Like
Well, and he
sodomized
wanted them to
them.
be close to him. So even at his grandmother's house, he had a head in a box underneath his bed.
Yeah, he would actually lay with the bodies, like literally lay next to them while they're dead. Just lay there staring at them, rubbing their chest, and like he did not want them to move during sex, and that's why he killed them. He'd strangled them. Most of it was strangulation. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
We are good. Sorry, my daughter's home. She flipped me off.
Mhm.
uh, I love my kids. Kelly's from the UK. I think I remember her from last time.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyways, so yeah, he would drug them, kill them, usually by strangulation, because it was a easy thing to do, and then lay with them for a while, have sex with them, do all kinds of sick, gross things to their body, um, fellatio, sodomized, everything, masturbate on them, and then would leave their bodies there for a few days, even a couple weeks sometimes, and then he would destroy their bodies by putting them. He ended up getting a big, and I don't know how his grandma never noticed, like a huge barrel in the basement. Not to mention, they talk about the stench that came from the base. Like, how do you not go to explore your house?
Well, part of the way that
Like,
he got away with the barrel in the basement was because he was still telling her and his father, who came to investigate the barrel, that he was still picking up roadkill, and he was still bringing it there, and he was still doing the hobbies that he had as a kid, and
that
that's how
makes
he got
sense.
away. And at one point, even his dad went down to the basement at his grandmother's house and was asking about the barrel that was down there. And somehow Jeffrey convinced him that it was, in fact, dead. And the smell was coming from the roadkill flesh that was stuck in the drains, is what he was claiming. Because
Oh,
the drains in the basement, because they had like a huge water hole in the
right,
basement with a drain in it. So you could just rinse off right there because it was concrete flooring with a drain.
right, right.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, he would basically chop them up, um, put them in the barrel that was the solution that dissolved their. He would actually chop off their head and save their heads.
He also saved their testicles too.
Oh, I didn't read that part, but thanks
Yes.
for telling me that.
No problem. They found, when he and eventually got caught and whatnot, they found containers with testicles in them and penises, just containers of them.
Yeah, everything I read didn't say
Mhm.
that. What it did say is they kept the. I'm so disturbed right
Mhm.
now. Oh,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
I'm so I'm
Sorry.
so
Sorry they
I'm
made it light
so
for
just.
you. Mhm.
This is why I have you as my co-host, so you can go in the deep death parts that I don't want to know. Um, oh
It was
my.
just wrong all the way around. They
I mean,
actually found
they
those
talked about.
items
I'm
when
like
they
flabbergasted. Oh
went to
my
arrest him.
god.
They actually found those items in a pan on the stove too.
Oh, I mean, they did talk about him cutting off the heads. Hi, John. Um,
Hi,
cut
John.
cutting off the Oh, by the way, real quick, since John's here, if you guys haven't gotten his Scareville or
Oh,
book,
I've got
get
him
his.
up.
Go get his Scareville books. He's got 3 of them right
Right, I've got
now.
them all up right
You
here.
can get them on Amazon. You can get them Barnes and Nobles and some other sites, but it's Scareville.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Scareville. They're kind of
Daryl.
like the Goosebump books, but they're way better. I'm sorry, they're way better. And I like them. I'm almost 47 years old, and I'm reading them myself. But they're children's, young teens
Young teens,
reading
yeah,
books. But
tweens.
I read them. I read them
Yeah,
because
so
they're
if you
that
haven't got your
good.
copies, make sure you do.
Yep. So the Scareville. Um,
And I'm assuming you're talking about cashews, Daryl. So
We're
yeah,
putting.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like
Sorry, Daryl. But yes, I mean, I
mm.
don't even have nuts, and I'm like sitting here squirming in my seat because that just like, oh,
Hi, Allison.
hi, Allison. How are you? I mean, I don't even know what to say on that one,
Yeah,
but
don't either.
I know what I read was that he would sever their heads, put them in the refrigerator for a while, and then he would um basically do his thing to get the skin off, this and that. Um, and then he would bleach the skulls. Sometimes he would paint them. He would keep them in his on a closet shelf. He would paint them, so they look decorative. He would have some in the freezer, in the refrigerator, along with other body parts in the refrigerator, like the heart and this part of their arms and part of their legs, because not only did he rape them while they were dead, um, you know, and kill them and everything else, he also ate them. He ate parts of their body. So he's cannibalism too. Like
So backing up
I'm
just a little bit, one of his victims, well, before that victim, he was accused.
and
There we go.
those are all his victims.
Yep, but right smack in the middle, the youngest one there.
Yep, right there.
His brother, not him, but his brother, I think a year or two prior to his death, accused Jeffrey of sodomizing him and doing things to him. And he got prosecuted and was he had to go to court over it and all this kind of stuff. Well, they ended up finding him not guilty, I think, because there wasn't enough evidence to prove it.
Yeah.
But they never stopped. So the irony of that story is that fast forward a year and a half, 2 years later, his brother, the youngest, ends up falling for the let me take pictures of you for $50 thing. And he takes him up to his new apartment now that he has, because can't stay at grandma's anymore. Because, she's not letting him keep his stuff and she's wanting to be in his room. And, I mean, things are happening. Yeah. So this is the one that he ended up drilling a hole in his head while he was still alive, because he decided that he wanted to turn them into the Walking Dead.
Yep. He actually, it was a hydrochloroform or something like that. Please share out if you can, share the podcast. We'd appreciate it. But yeah, he moved in an apartment, and it was number 213. Is when he and again, his neighbors would come complain about the smell coming from the apartment. Yeah, we're talking about Dahmer. Yes. I'm very disturbed by this. I'll probably need counseling after this. Thank you for sharing. But where was I going with this? But he apparently was a
the
charmer.
Smell from the neighbors.
Yes, they would complain, and he could talk his way out of pretty much anything. I mean,
bad meat that he had for too long in the freezer that he forgot about, and it went bad. And
I mean, the child that you were talking about, the 14-year-old that he drilled a hole in his head, Um, that he actually oh, what was it that he used? Hold on, let me find it because it was
A
like
freaking
hydro some.
drill.
I know, no, but what it was that he put in his head.
No,
Um,
some kind of acid.
yeah, it was like a hydrochloroform type thing that he thought was,
Hydrochloric acid.
yes, that's it. Um, so he put that in his head thinking that it was going to make him, like you said,
A
zombie like
zombie.
where he, because he wanted, what he ultimately wanted out of his victims was somebody that he can
He did.
overpower and control. That's what he wanted from his victims, and he couldn't get that out of them. So he thought, oh, let me drill a hole in one of their head, put the stuff in, and maybe it'll do something to their brain where I can control them. I can do what they will do, whatever I want them to do, you know. Um, well, that didn't happen. He After he did that, the kid went limp. And then Jeffrey went to the bar. He wanted to have a few drinks. He
He
went to
ran
the
out of
bar.
alcohol. He went to go get
Yep.
another six pack.
So he went to the bar, got drunk, and when he was on his way back, there was police officers waiting for him. Because what happened was that young man came to, even though he was sluggish and like on like kind of zombie like, was walking down the street, and some ladies found him, called the police, and during that time Jeffrey told him that he was his 19-year-old lover. Um, and he kind of just came up with this whole elaborate story that this was his lover and they had a dispute. And the ladies were so like, no, 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 you got to do something. And the cops yelled at the ladies and told them, shut that up, mind your own business, that's fine. But they didn't pay attention because if they would have, if they would have, um, called and told had the ambulance come, which apparently they stopped it from coming. But if they would have had him, they would have checked him out and they would have seen the hole in his head. They would have seen the blood coming from his rear end. They would have seen the bruises on his body. But the police were so I guess Jeffrey charmed them in a way that they believed him that it was his 19-year-old lover when he was actually 14.
Right. And they released this boy back into his custody for
Yep.
him to take back up to his apartment and
And
kill
they basically,
him.
yep. So basically, those two officers, you know, gave him his death sentence for that young man. Yeah, unfortunately, some of them still suck. Not all of them. I can't say that because my son is in the military. He's a police officer, so he's a good guy. He's one of the good guys. But something, like in any profession, there's idiots. They're out there. Can't help it. But these ones suck. They believed him. They believed
Well, it
him.
was also the
Now,
time. It was you had black women, out there making accusations. So you had your racism going on during that time. That was pretty huge. Plus, now we've mixed in homosexuality
mhm,
that they don't want to be a part of, and they
right.
don't want to even know about it. So to them, and later on, the irony of this is that later on, I do believe that those cops got awards because of
That's
helping
basically
to
what he did.
helping to get Jeffrey Dahmer caught.
Yeah,
They got
yeah,
awards like
yeah. And so that was pretty disturbing. That I mean, he almost got caught several times. And he charmed everybody. He really did. He was, I guess, a smooth talker. Um, but eventually he did get caught. He did. He did. He
Tracy
did.
Edwards.
Tracy Edwards was his last victim. Um,
Well, he
Uh,
wasn't a victim. He was a
well, he wasn't a
survivor.
victim. He was exact. I was just about to say that it was his last victim, but he didn't die. He survived it.
What was kind
Um,
of nasty about all this stuff that Jeffrey Dahmer was doing was he was going at such a fast rate that he would have a dead body in a barrel, a dead body next to the bed, and be bringing somebody else into the house while he's had all these parts and people. And I mean, ew.
yeah, yeah. And Edwards was the one that basically, you know, Jeffrey told him he was going to eat his heart out. And he's like, "What?" So
Yeah.
you know, um so he was able to, get away. He called the cops. They came. Really started noticing the stench, found the pictures in the room, found the huge knife. Apparently, there was a huge knife under his bed. And Jeffrey was basically standing there, letting them in their house, like letting him go through their house without a warrant, not fighting, not charming them. Um,
He did
is
try to
it,
run.
he did at once he saw the pictures, the Polaroids in the police officer's hands, is when he tried to fight them off. But the police officers were stronger than him, took him down, handcuffed him, and that's when they started really doing their search in the house. And when they opened the refrigerator, is when they saw all the hearts and body parts and they said
Penises
it
and
was so.
testicles.
Yeah, thanks for saying it.
Sorry, I had to, Holly. You know
I
this.
know,
Ooh.
and that you don't know how bad my legs are, like this right now, and I'm just like under my table, like, oh, I'm cringing for you men. Hold on tight to those things. Anywho, but apparently it was so bad the police officers almost puked when they opened up the refrigerator because they saw the severed heads on the shelves in the refrigerator. They found the heads in his closets, painted, all that stuff, and they called for backup. Yeah, so he went to jail. Um, and he didn't deny any of it. So the trial, that when he went to trial, it wasn't about, it was not about, is he guilty or innocent? It was, what do we do with this man? He didn't deny it. He actually did not deny
He
any of
helped
it.
them find he helped them find people too.
Yeah, yeah,
Foreclosures for the families. Um and then he wasn't even allowed in regular population for a while because of in prison because of his horrendous things that he had done. They were pretty sure that the inmates were going to take him out right away. So he wasn't in population right away.
he looks, he looks a little like, I don't know. He definitely looks like a creeper right there.
And then he was cleaning, I believe it was the weight area, like where they lift weights and stuff. It was like a little gym area
Yeah. So
with
he,
two other inmates.
yeah. He did get so basically they did find obviously he was sentenced to basically 1,000 years behind bars. Because he did get was found guilty on 16 counts in Ohio, and then the first one was in the,
Wisconsin.
yeah. So basically got 1,000 years, and then that's when, yeah, he in prison he decided to become a Christian.
Of course. Don't they
You
all?
know that I know. So he started adapting to the faith of Christianity, but he was a master manipulator. He used his charm and charisma in prison too. but and they didn't have the death penalty, but he did at one point say he should be dead for what he has done. Um, well, he eventually got what he what he
What
said.
was owed to him. Yeah.
He basically those two inmates killed him with a metal bar.
No, it was just the one inmate.
Oh well, the one, but there was
The
two.
one
They
inmate,
talked about two.
although there is legend that, or not legend, but there was a gossip story going around about how Jeffrey Dahmer was killed in prison by a broom handle being in a not so nice place in his body, but that actually didn't happen to him. That actually happened to the other inmate that was in the room. What
Okay.
happened to him was the barbell, and the inmate that was in there, um, that killed him and the other inmate, was said to be a prophet. He believed he was a prophet and that Jesus had come to him and told him to kill those two men. And so he killed both of them. And he claimed, the one that killed the two inmates, that Jeffrey just sat there and let him do it, and said that he was surprised it took that long for somebody to
Oh.
actually kill him.
I mean, I'm not surprised it took that long for somebody to kill him because,
I'm
um,
surprised that didn't happen sooner.
right, right.
Yeah. But
Um,
he wasn't in Gen Pop until later. They had him in
right.
solitary confinement for a while.
Oh my God, that just probably made him even more crazier. Um,
Is that possible? I mean, really? He was pretty insane. I
I mean,
mean, people that go around, I mean, you don't just kill people and eat them and keep their bones. And I mean, normal people, right? I mean, I don't know. People don't do that. People don't do that. You know,
no,
no
we
people
don't.
I know do that. So,
No, no. Oh my God, I don't know what I would do if I knew somebody that did that. I'd be like, oh my God, I actually know that person. Like, I would probably flip out. Like, I don't know what I would do if I had a friend that you just found out the worst thing about them and you're like, what?
yeah,
Like, I
exactly.
mean, can you imagine being somebody who went to high school with him and going, I went to school with that kid. Like,
Well, and
and
even
be
in
able to
high
tell
school,
stories about that kid and be like, "Oh my
they
God, I went to
actually
school
do.
with him."
Even in high school, he was known for being kind of geeky and whatever. And they used to have a saying when he was in high school: "Stop pulling a Dahmer.
Yeah,
Stop pulling a Dahmer." You
because he
know,
would he would do so many pranks on people. So, yeah.
actually, I
Um,
did know that, Becky. I knew
but
that, not only him, but there was another serial killer, and they did take his brain and found it to be, I don't think it was Gacy though. But yes, I knew about that.
um, but they did cremate him. They cremated him, and the his parents took half of the cremations each. So they separated, his dad got half and his mom got half. Um, so that's kind of gross. I don't know what they did with it. I didn't see what they did with
Mm.
it. They could have disposed of it with their whatever they want or buried. I don't know. But the few things that he did possess were destroyed because um they didn't want people to get a hold of his belongings and stuff like that, like ghoulish collectors. So, and they didn't want the reason why they cremated him too is because they didn't want people to dig up his bones. Yep, they didn't want people, which probably could have happened. Who knows?
There
Um,
are weird grave diggers out there, I am
there
telling you.
are, there are. I'm pretty sure there are.
Now,
Um,
pulling the paranormal into this a little bit, I watched something on YouTube about a team that went to a familiar area of where Jeffrey Dahmer frequented or something?
Well, the
Do you
apartment
know what
that
I'm
he
talking
lived
about?
well, the apartment that he did live in, the 213, they tore down that whole building complex.
Right, right. But they
So,
took a ghost box out there and they have recording of what actually even sounds like his voice
hmm, I don't know what team
answering.
that was,
I
but
don't
I
recall. I
mean,
don't remember either. I was looking up something and it had some, and I don't think it was very long. It was only like a 5 minute ordeal.
yeah, no, I mean they tore down the place and then they tore down the house too. That his grandma like the where the families lived because they don't want people they just bad omens. They don't want people there making a mockery of everything. Oh, at one point he was taking I forgot to mention this, but he did take the bones and was trying to construct like like a macrame type thing on his paw with the bones.
He told one interviewer that his ultimate goal was to make some kind of a shrine that he could praise to, like an altar type
Yeah.
of deal with all of the different parts and whatnots.
Every time I was reading this, I was thinking Silence of the Lambs the whole
Straight
time.
up, straight
Like
up.
I was totally thinking, put the lotion in the basket and like
Puts the lotion on
him,
its skin or else
him
it gets the hose
dancing,
again.
him dancing and putting the skin. I was totally thinking Silence of the Lambs. And then you got Hannibal Lecter.
Oh my
Like,
god.
like, and what's funny is like I don't really like that movie. Like that movie was one that actually creeped me out where I don't watch it very often. And to this day I don't watch it very often. I don't. It creeps me out. Like there's people that actually do that. They eat people. Like
Facts.
it's terrible. I like I remember what was that? And I know I'm going off topic, but there was that one plane crash that crashed
Yes, I
into
was
the
just
side of
talking about
mountain,
this the other day.
and
And they were eating each other.
they had to eat each other to survive. And I was like, I would be one of the dead people because I could not. I don't
Well,
care if they were frozen and dead already. There's no way I could eat another human being.
you'd be
I mean, I
surprised
know
what you
eat.
could do if you were hungry enough.
Maybe I don't know, but I know I can eat a dead animal like a cow and a chicken and a pig. But I didn't kill them, so I buy them at the grocery store can do that, but a human being, I don't know. I'd probably be the one that got eaten so they can eat me.
Mm.
Like,
You would actually be really surprised when survival mode kicks in and you are in a predicament of either surviving or being eaten
this is
because
not
that's
naked and afraid. We ain't
no,
going
but
there.
that's what it would be like. I mean, if you had no other alternatives, you'd be surprised what you would do if you're hungry
Oh
enough.
my God. I don't, I mean, I
But
hope
that's not what
let's just
Jeffrey
say,
Dahmer was doing.
I hope I never get to that point because no, but he was doing it for fascination. Like,
Right. Jeffrey Dahmer had
oh my
food.
God.
He
Yeah,
didn't need to eat
clearly.
people. So,
Clearly. I mean, oh my God. Oh, thank God he's not alive anymore because that just, we
yeah.
don't need that energy in this world. But you know what? The sad part of it, here we are, we're keeping him alive by talking about him. All these books that are written about him, all these TV shows that are, talk about him. We are keeping him alive by talking about him. And here we are, we're one of them. Sorry. Sorry,
Well, it's a
audience.
good thing it's the end of the show. And we
Right.
won't be talking about him anymore.
No, so with that being said, we have in 2 weeks, so September 28th, um we will be doing another show and we haven't decided yet who we're going to talk about. So It'll be a mystery again. We'll let you know when it gets closer to the 2 weeks. We'll let you know who we're going to talk about because we haven't discussed that yet. You know, we'll do that later.
That's right.
We're very busy ladies, you know.
Right.
Um, yep. So, and it's almost getting close to the end of the year. It's almost spooky season. Well, it is spooky season for all of us. You know, hey, starts in September, goes till November.
Yep.
Anyways,
All
well,
right.
you guys have a great night. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the last Daryl. Hold on to those nuts. I mean, those Buckeyes.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks,
Kelly from the
everybody.
UK. You guys catch us in 2 weeks. Talk to you later. Bye.
Peace.